Mara had always lived with a quiet heaviness in her heart, feeling she never understood fully but carried everywhere like an invisible weight. Growing up, she moved from town to town with her unsettled family. Her parents cared for her in their own ways, but they were distant, wrapped up in their own worries and arguments. As a child, Mara often sat alone outside, watching other children play with laughter and confidence she never could join. She admired how easily they seemed to connect, how naturally friendships formed around them. She wished for just one person who would stay in her life long enough to understand her. But every time she felt close to someone, life changed again. Another move, another farewell, another beginning without roots. Over the years, this repeated pattern taught her to stop expecting warmth from others. She grew older, quieter, and more withdrawn. People thought she enjoyed being alone because she always kept to herself. They assumed she was distant by choice. But the truth was far softer and far sadder. She didn't stay away because she wanted to, but because she believed she had no place beside anyone. She feared she had nothing to offer. She feared she would be forgotten again. So she built small walls around her heart, telling herself she was fine even when she wasn't. On one particular day, the weight on her chest felt heavier than ever. She had spent her morning at work trying to keep up with demands she couldn't meet. Her coworkers were polite, but she could sense she did not fit in. She saw groups laughing together, sharing small moments she wished she could be part of. She tried to smile when someone passed her, but her smile felt empty. When she returned home, the silence of her small room felt louder than usual. Everything reminded her of how alone she felt, her quiet meals, her silent evenings, the way no one noticed if she didn't speak at all. That evening, unable to bear the heaviness inside her, she stepped outside and walked toward the open desert beyond her town. She didn't have a destination in mind. She just needed space, air, and something bigger than her thoughts. The sky stretched wide above her, turning soft shades of orange and gold as the sun slowly dipped toward the horizon. She walked without thinking, letting her feet follow the dusty path. Little by little, the quiet of nature replaced the noise in her mind. The breeze brushed against her cheeks, and she closed her eyes for a moment, hoping to let that calmness settle inside her. When she opened her eyes again, she saw someone standing not far away. It startled her at first, but the figure did not move sharply or in a threatening way. Instead, he stood with a gentle presence, watching the colors of the sky. He was an Apache man from a nearby settlement, though Mara did not know that yet. His name was Tahoma. He often visited this place to watch the sunset, finding peace in the familiar land and the open sky. Today, he had been standing quietly, lost in his thoughts, until he noticed Mara walking with a posture that spoke of sadness she tried to hide. He approached slowly, giving her space, and asked in a warm, calm voice, "Are you all right?" Mara blinked in surprise. She wasn't used to strangers speaking to her, especially with such softness. She opened her mouth to answer, but the words didn't come. She looked away, trying to hide the tension in her eyes. She didn't want to cry in front of someone she had never met. But her heart had been carrying the weight for too long. Tahoma stepped slightly closer, but not enough to make her uncomfortable. He had always been observant by nature, raised to listen more than he spoke. Something in her posture, her hunched shoulders, the way her hands tightened around themselves, told him she was struggling. He didn't want to intrude, but he couldn't ignore the sadness he sensed. "You seem troubled," he said gently. "Sometimes talking helps. Sometimes even silence helps, if you share it with someone." His words surprised her. They felt sincere, not forced or polite. For a moment, Mara tried to steady her breathing, but the day's emotional weight pressed harder against her chest. And all the feelings she had been holding back finally broke through. Tears formed in her eyes before she could stop them. She turned her face away, embarrassed, but her voice cracked as she whispered, "I'm fine. I'm just tired." Tahoma did not look away. He didn't pressure her to explain, nor did he respond with the usual empty words people used. Instead, he said something simple. "It is all right to not be fine." That broke the last bit of strength she had been clinging to. Tears ran down her cheeks, and she pressed her hands to her face. It wasn't dramatic or loud. It was the quiet kind of crying that comes from deep, worn-out pain. She felt foolish and exposed. She felt like a small, lost thing. She tried to apologize, but her voice trembled too much. Tahoma watched her with heartfelt concern. He knew what it meant to carry sorrow alone. His elders had taught him that the heart grows lighter when someone listens, even without offering solutions. So he waited until she could breathe normally again. When she finally managed to speak, her voice was faint. "I've never felt love," she whispered, the words trembling out of her. "Not the kind people talk about. Not the kind that makes you feel wanted." "I don't know what it feels like," her voice broke again. "It makes me feel like something is wrong with me." Tahoma's expression softened with compassion. He did not interrupt. He did not rush her. After a long moment, he said in a low and steady voice, "There is nothing wrong with you." Ach. Mara shook her head slightly. She wasn't convinced. She had lived so long with the belief that she was unworthy of kindness that it felt like truth. Tahoma continued gently. "Love isn't something you measure by how much you've received. Sometimes people around us don't know how to give it, or they are too busy with their own pain. That doesn't mean you don't deserve it." Mara listened, the words feeling unreal, yet strangely comforting. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Most people told her to be strong, to move forward, to stop thinking negatively. But Tahoma didn't tell her what to do. He spoke as if he understood the heaviness inside her. They stood together quietly as the desert. Wind moved gently across the open land. As the sun slipped lower, the colors of the sky deepened into soft purples and deep golds. Mara wiped her tears with the back of her hand, feeling embarrassed again. She whispered, "Sorry. I don't know why I'm telling you all this. You don't even know me." Tahoma gave a kind smile. "Sometimes strangers see us clearly before anyone else does." Mara looked down at the ground, feeling a warm sting in her chest. She didn't know how, but his words eased something inside her. They talked until the last light of day faded. She told him small pieces of her past, enough to explain her loneliness without revealing everything. He shared simple things about himself, like how he found peace walking through nature and how he believed every person's heart carried its own story. His voice was calm, steady, grounding. He didn't ask too many questions. He didn't make her feel weak for crying. For the first time in a very long time, Mara felt like someone had truly listened. When she finally prepared to leave, she felt strangely lighter. She whispered a quiet thank you. Tahoma nodded softly and said, "Come here anytime you need peace." As she walked back toward town, she felt a warmth in her chest, a small one, but enough to notice. She didn't understand why a stranger's kindness had comforted her more than anything else in years. All she knew was that his presence had steadied her heart, even if just for one evening. She glanced back once and saw Tahoma still standing there watching the sky. And in her heart, something gentle began to shift, like the first soft breeze before a season changes. Mara returned to her routine the next day, but something inside her had changed. It was a small change, almost too gentle to describe, yet she felt it in every quiet moment. The heaviness she carried for years was still there, but it no longer pressed on her as sharply. She found herself remembering Tahoma's calm voice, the way he listened without rushing her, the way he didn't judge or look away when she cried. It had been so long since anyone had given her even a moment of genuine attention. The memory stayed with her, warming her heart in unexpected ways. A few days passed before she went back to the desert again. She told herself she was going for fresh air, for space, for calmness. But deep inside, she knew she hoped to see him again. She felt nervous as she walked, unsure whether he would be there or whether he would even remember her. A part of her feared she had imagined the connection they shared. Maybe she had been too emotional. Maybe she had bothered him. But when she reached the same place, she found him standing there, watching the sky with the same peaceful expression. He turned slightly when he heard her footsteps. His eyes softened with recognition. "You came back," he said gently. The simple words eased all her worries. She nodded, suddenly shy. "I wanted some fresh air," she said, though she knew he understood there was more behind her visit. "I'm glad you're here," he replied. They began walking along the edge of the desert. where soft sand met patches of dry grass. At first, they talked lightly about the weather, about the breeze, about the distant mountains turning purple in the evening light. But soon, the conversation naturally shifted into something deeper. Toma shared small pieces of his life. He told her about his childhood, how he learned from his elders, how his grandmother taught him to read the movements of the wind and the stories hidden in the stars. He described how he found peace in keeping old traditions alive, and how he believed every person carried their own kind of strength, even if they didn't see it themselves. Mara listened quietly, drawn to the calm rhythm of his voice. She loved how he spoke with a sincerity she rarely found in people. He didn't try to impress her. He didn't try to be someone he wasn't. He simply shared pieces of his world with quiet honesty. In return, Mara opened up little by little. She talked about her childhood, the constant moving, and how she felt like she never belonged anywhere. She told him how she had never experienced the warmth of real connection, how she had always felt like an outsider, even among people her age. Tahoma listened with the same patience he showed the first day they met. His eyes didn't stray. His attention didn't break. It felt overwhelming and comforting at the same time for Mara. No one had ever listened to her like that. Each time she spoke, she felt a weight lifting off her heart. One afternoon, while they sat on a fallen log as the breeze moved gently across the land, Mara found herself speaking about something she had tried to hide even from herself. Sometimes, she said softly, I feel like I don't deserve love at all, like it belongs to other people. Not me. Tahoma turned his gaze toward her, his expression full of calm understanding. Love is not something you earn, he said. It's something that grows when two hearts meet with honesty. Mara lowered her eyes, unsure how to respond. She had spent years believing she wasn't meant to have that kind of closeness in her life. She feared opening her heart, feared depending on anyone, feared the emptiness that came when they eventually left. Tahoma continued, not rushing her. Many people think love is something they must prove themselves worthy of, but love in its true form is a gift. It is not a reward. You've known loneliness not because you are unworthy of love, but because you have walked through life without someone who understands your heart. His words landed softly but deeply. Mara felt her throat tighten. She didn't know how someone who barely knew her could speak to her with such clarity. She wondered how he could see through the walls she had put up for years. She whispered, "But what if I don't know how to accept it? What if I push it away without meaning to? Then someone who cares," he said gently, "will walk at your pace. They will not run ahead and leave you behind." Mara stared at him for a long moment, her heart trembling with emotion she didn't fully understand. She felt a mix of fear and hope, the kind that made her feel vulnerable, but also strangely safe. They spent many days that followed walking together, talking about everything and nothing. Sometimes they sat in silence, letting the quiet speak for them. Sometimes they laughed about simple things, how she always tripped over the same rock on the path, or how he struggled to teach her to read animal tracks. These small moments became precious to her. One day Mara arrived with red-rimmed eyes. It had been a difficult morning. She had felt overwhelmed at work, unnoticed and unimportant. Someone had spoken sharply to her, and even though their words were small, they pierced her heart deeply. By the time she reached the desert, she felt as though every step she took dragged her further into sadness. Tahoma noticed her expression instantly. "You're hurting," he said softly. She didn't try to hide it this time. Instead, she sat down on the ground, pulled her knees close, and let the tears fall. She felt frustrated with herself for crying again, but she couldn't stop. Everything she had been trying to hold together fell apart the moment she saw him. Tahoma sat beside her silently. He didn't touch her. He didn't lecture her. He simply stayed close in the way someone does when they want to share another's burden without intruding on their pain. After a long while, Mara managed to whisper, "I don't think I matter to anyone." Tahoma's voice was low, steady, and full of quiet certainty. "You matter," he said. "You just haven't been with people who see your worth." Mara wiped her tears, her voice shaking. "Why do you say things that feel so impossible to believe?" "Because they are true," he answered calmly. You carry a gentle heart, a heart that feels deeply. That is not weakness. It is strength. Mara looked at him, searching his face for any sign of insincerity. She found none. Instead, she saw honesty. She saw warmth. She saw someone who had chosen to stay, even when she felt like nothing. That day, she realized something important. She trusted him. Not blindly, but slowly, carefully, naturally. It was trust built from quiet moments, patient words, steady presence. Even the wind seemed to soften around them as they sat together. The land stretched wide, peaceful, and open, giving them a sense of freedom neither found in their daily lives. As the sun drifted lower, a gentle golden light wrapped around them. Tahoma finally spoke again, his voice almost a whisper. "You are not alone anymore, Mara." Her breath caught in her chest. She didn't respond, not because she doubted him, but because the words filled her heart in a way she wasn't prepared for. She felt a warmth spreading through her, soft, slow, healing. For the first time in a long while, she believed she didn't have to walk through life without support. She didn't say anything. She simply leaned a little closer to him, letting the moment speak for her. And Tahoma, understanding her quiet actions, simply remained by her side, letting her know without words that he wasn't going anywhere. Mara's visits to the desert slowly became a natural part of her days. What once felt like an escape now felt like returning to a place where her heart could breathe. She looked forward to seeing Tahoma, not because she depended on him to fix her sadness, but because he made her feel understood in a way she had never known before. He did not judge her, he did not pull away from her emotions, and he did not make her feel like she was a burden. His presence felt like a quiet shelter, strong but gentle, steady but warm. One day, Toma surprised her with an invitation. He asked her to visit the small settlement where he lived with his community. Mara felt nervous at first. She had never been part of a close-knit group. She feared that the people there might not welcome her, or might see her as an outsider. But Tahoma reassured her with a soft smile. He told her that his people respected kindness, honesty, and peaceful hearts. He believed she would feel at ease there. Mara agreed, though her heart fluttered with anxiety as they walked toward the settlement. The path wound through open land and scattered trees until small homes and wooden structures appeared in the distance. Smoke rose gently from a few cooking fires, and children ran around laughing. The air smelled of earth, warm bread, and burning wood. For a moment, Mara felt like she had stepped into a different world, one where life moved at a slower, kinder pace. As they entered, a few elders greeted Tahoma with respectful nods. He introduced Mara softly, without drawing unnecessary attention. The elders welcomed her with simple smiles and warm eyes. No one stared or asked uncomfortable questions. No one made her feel out of place. Instead, they treated her like someone who belonged. Even though they had just met her, a woman who appeared to be one of the cooks offered Mara a warm bowl of stew. She accepted it shyly and sat on a wooden bench near the fire. The food tasted different from anything she had eaten before, simple, hearty, full of flavor. Children ran past her with bright laughter, chasing one another with sticks and feathers. Some of them glanced at her curiously, but with friendly smiles rather than suspicion. Toma sat beside her, watching her reactions quietly. He didn't push her to speak or ask if she liked the place. He simply let her take it in at her own pace. Mara felt her shoulders loosen slowly. She didn't need to pretend she was fine. She didn't need to hide her nervousness. Everything about the settlement felt warm and open. They stayed for a few hours. Tahoma showed her the small garden where herbs grew, the place where tools were crafted, and the open area where community gatherings were held. Mara noticed how everyone worked together, sharing responsibilities, helping one another without needing to be asked. She felt something unfamiliar, but comforting rising inside her. A sense of belonging she never thought she would feel anywhere, as the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and deep pink. Tahoma invited her to sit near a small fire away from the noise of the settlement. They sat together in peaceful silence. The flames flickered softly, casting warm light on their faces. Mara wrapped her arms around her knees, enjoying the gentle warmth. After a while, She broke the silence with a confession she had held inside for years. "Every time I get close to people, I fear they will leave," she said quietly. "Fear getting attached because it hurts too much when everything falls apart again." Tahoma listened with his usual steady calm. "Your fear makes sense," he replied. "You have been left behind before. You've carried that memory in your heart." Mara nodded, her eyes on the fire. "Sometimes I think it's safer to stay alone than to risk losing someone." Tahoma turned slightly toward her. His voice was gentle, almost like a warm blanket around her sadness. "Safety and loneliness often walk together," he said. Dot 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 we dot dot dot. Mara looked up at him, her eyes searching his face. "What if I can't trust easily? What if I always doubt myself?" He held her gaze with quiet strength. "Then let trust grow slowly, like a small plant. It doesn't need to rush. It just needs care, one day at a time." His words settled deep inside her. She breathed slowly, letting them sink in. Something about Tahoma's presence made her feel like she didn't need to pretend she was brave. She could admit her fears, and he wouldn't pull away. After a while, she whispered something even more vulnerable. "I don't want to lose you." Tahona's expression softened with a warmth she had never seen before. "You will not lose me," he said gently. "I am here." The simplicity of those words brought unexpected tears to her eyes. It's not heavy tears of despair, but soft ones of relief and hope. She wiped them quickly, embarrassed. But Tahoma noticed. Instead of pointing it out or making her feel uncomfortable, he simply sat closer, not touching her, but close enough to let her know she wasn't alone. The fire crackled softly as the sky darkened. A gentle breeze carried the scent of the desert through the settlement. Mara felt something new, safety. She didn't know how to explain it, but she felt anchored, steady, understood. She had never experienced this feeling before. Later, as they walked back toward her town, the night sky spread wide above them. Stars shimmered like tiny promises of something bigger than their worries. Mara walked beside Tahoma with a peace she hadn't felt in years. She finally spoke again, her voice soft but certain. "I don't know what's happening to me. What do you feel?" he asked, his tone gentle. "I feel," she paused, unsure how to describe it. "I feel less alone." Tahoma looked at her with a quiet smile. "That is good." Mara felt her heart flutter. "It scares me a little." "New feelings often do," he said. "But you don't have to rush. We move forward slowly, together." Those words stayed with her, even after they parted for the night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying their conversations. She felt warmth in her chest where cold emptiness once lived. She didn't know what the future would bring. She didn't know how her feelings would grow or change. But she knew one thing for certain. She wasn't walking through life alone anymore. The following days deepened their connection. Mara visited the settlement again, helping with simple tasks like washing vegetables or grinding herbs. The community welcomed her presence. She shared small smiles with the women, laughed with the children, and learned small things about their way of life. She realized she loved the quiet rhythm of the place, and every time she and Tahoma shared a moment, whether a conversation, or a quiet walk, or a shared glance, she felt something inside her healing, slowly but surely. One evening, as they sat together beneath the rising moon, Mara's voice trembled with honesty. "I still don't fully understand why you care about me," she said softly. Tahoma looked at her with gentle certainty. "Because care does not always need a reason," he answered. "Sometimes it is given because a heart recognizes another heart that needs it." Mara felt her breath catch. A warm, steady feeling washed through her. She didn't respond with words. Instead, she shifted closer, letting her shoulder rest lightly near his. It was a small gesture, but for her, it held 1,000 unspoken emotions. Tahoma did not move away. He simply stayed beside her, watching the moon climb higher into the sky, knowing that her quiet closeness was a sign of trust, something precious, fragile, and beautiful. And as the night deepened around them, Mara realized she was beginning to heal in ways she had once thought impossible. Mara's life slowly began to change in ways she never expected. Days that once felt heavy and lonely now carried small sparks of warmth. She woke up each morning with a feeling she couldn't name at first, something like hope, something like calm. The emptiness that had been her quiet companion for so many years was no longer the strongest part inside her. It still existed, but now it shared space with something new, something gentle and alive. She visited Tahoma's settlement often. At first, she only helped with simple tasks, setting vegetables in baskets, sorting herbs, or carrying water from the well. But day by day, she found herself doing more, talking more, laughing more. She discovered that the people there had a way of making her feel important without ever saying the words. Whenever she helped, they thanked her softly. When she made a mistake, they corrected her with kindness, not judgment. She learned to braid dried plants into bundles, learned how to prepare simple meals the way the community liked, and learned to sit in peaceful silence with elders who enjoyed her quiet company. For someone who had always felt like a shadow in her own life, this gentle inclusion felt like sunlight on her skin. And through all of this, Tahoma remained by her side, not every moment. Not as someone who hovered, but as someone who showed steady presence. Sometimes they talked for hours. Sometimes they worked in silence, their shoulders brushing lightly as they sorted baskets. Sometimes he told her stories from his people's past, lessons passed down through generations. Other times, he simply looked at her with warm eyes that felt like a safe place. One evening, as the settlement prepared for a small gathering, Mara helped the women arrange bowls, blankets, and cooked food. Laughter floated in the air as children chased one another. The sound of drums echoed softly from a distant corner where a group practiced simple rhythms. Mara watched it all with a calm heart. She felt like she was part of something for the first time in her life. When Tahoma approached her, she noticed how his expression softened when his eyes found her. He handed her a wooden bowl of berries and asked if she could place it with the others. She nodded, smiling without even realizing it. After the preparations were done, they sat together at the edge of the gathering. Watching families talk and share food, Mara leaned slightly toward him and whispered, "Everyone here seems happy." "Yes," he said, "because we carry life together." She looked at the families, then at him, and something inside her stirred deeply. "I never had this growing up," she admitted. "I always felt like I was watching life from the outside." Tahoma turned to her. "You are not outside anymore." The words struck her heart with a mix of joy and disbelief. She lowered her eyes, feeling emotion rise in her throat. She wanted to believe him fully, but part of her still carried the old fear of being left behind. Fear of losing what she had just begun to find. Later that night, after the gathering ended and the settlement grew quieter, they walked together under the open sky. The stars were bright, scattered across the darkness like silver dust. Mara loved walking at night with Tahoma. The air felt cool, and the world felt peaceful. She stopped near a patch of soft grass and took a slow breath. "Tahoma," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "I feel things I don't understand." "What do you feel?" he asked gently. "I feel lighter. I feel safe. I feel happy sometimes without a reason. And when I'm alone, I think about this place, about the people here, and about you." She paused, gathering her courage. "But I'm also scared. I don't know why." Tahoma stood quietly, letting her speak. She appreciated that about him, the way he never rushed her, never interrupted her emotions. "You were scared," he said softly, "because this is new, and new things can feel uncertain." She nodded slowly. "I'm afraid of losing all this. I'm afraid of losing you." He stepped a little closer, but kept his movements gentle, giving her time to adjust. "You will not lose me," he said again, with the same steady certainty he had always shown her. I am here with you not just for these moments, but for the journey ahead. Mara swallowed, her eyes warming. But why? Why me? I don't even know what I can give in return. He lifted his gaze to the stars before answering, as if thinking deeply. You give more than you see, he said. You give honesty. You give trust. You give your heart even when it shakes with fear. Mara felt her breath catch. But I don't know how to love properly, she whispered. I've never learned it. Tahoma looked at her with a tenderness that wrapped her heart in warmth. Love is not something you learn like a skill, he said. It grows inside you. Slowly, gently. Through moments like this, she looked at him with wide, emotional eyes. But what if I make mistakes? What if I push you away again by accident? Then I will stay, he said simply, and we will work through those moments together. Those words, simple, steady, sincere, softened something deep within her. She felt a warmth spreading through her chest, a feeling she had tried for years to imagine but never truly believed she could feel. They sat down on the grass. Close enough for their shoulders to touch lightly, Mara stared at the sky, the stars reflecting in her eyes. She felt a quiet shift inside, her like a door opening, like a light turning on in a long dark room. After a long moment, she whispered something she had never said to anyone. I feel like I'm finally learning what love is. Tona turned to her, his voice soft. And how does it feel? She took a moment before answering. It feels warm, gentle, safe. It feels like I'm not alone anymore. He nodded, his eyes full of warmth. That is love, Mara. Not grand gestures. Not loud declarations. Just the quiet knowing that someone cares deeply for you. Tears slipped down her cheek, not from sadness, but from a mix of relief and joy. She didn't hide it. She didn't apologize. Instead, she wiped it away softly. Toma reached out, not to hold her, or overwhelm her, but to place his hand lightly over hers for just a moment. His touch was gentle, steady, reassuring. She didn't pull away. She let their hands rest together, feeling a connection she had long dreamed of without knowing it. As they sat there, breathing the calm night air, Mara realized that her heart no longer felt empty. The emptiness had been replaced by something living, something growing. She knew there would still be difficult days. She knew fears would return. She knew life wasn't perfect, but she also knew she wasn't facing it alone anymore. She had found someone who saw her clearly, someone who stayed, someone who offered warmth without expecting perfection. And she had found a community that accepted her with open hearts. Before the night ended, she spoke one last time, her voice soft but full of quiet strength. Thank you, Tahoma, for giving me a place to belong. He looked at her with soft eyes. You always had a place. You just needed someone to remind you. They walked back slowly, side by side, their steps quiet and steady. Mara felt like she had taken her first real step into a future filled with trust, connection, and gentle hope. And Tahoma, knowing her heart had begun to open, silently promised himself that he would walk beside her for as long as she wished through calm days, difficult nights, and everything in between. Together, they moved forward into a life where love grew slowly, beautifully, and truly.